school in Philadelphia for Dornside Center, where I taught dance classes, and I ended up combining that with my senior project. Wheelchair dance, where I went to the HMS school and participated in dance movement therapy sessions with people around our age who have cerebral palsy. And recently this spring, I did at the Kirkbride Center, we did yoga with recovering addicts. And so I decided to interview dance movement therapists and ask them what activities they recommended for this age group and see if I could integrate them into a dance technique class versus just like a therapy session. And I ended up using the Dance with Dornside Center. I taught all year the concert dance class, which was for 7 to 9-year-olds and then 10 to 12-year-olds. So this is my timeline. First, I started with the IRB process, which is the Institutional Review Board. Then I did a Westfall Creates presentation, which was my academic-facing presentation. Phase 3 was the dance movement therapist interviews. Phase 4 was the implementation of the activities at the Dance with Dornside Center. Phase 5 was the analysis and synthesis, which is what I'm doing right now. And then the last phase is what I hope to achieve beyond senior year. So the IRB process was the longest portion of my project. It was from last July when I started it all the way to February. And even though they're not here, Dr. Miriam and Val are two people that helped me with every step along the way with completing this. It's a super long protocol that you have to complete when you're working with human subjects. And so I did it both because I was working with minors as well as because I was interviewing people. And this was important for if I wanted to ever publish any of my findings. The second phase was when I did my Westfall Creates presentation. In February, I shared 5 minutes of my research alongside different Westfall faculty from different majors, alongside grad students and undergraduate students. And so I was not too far along in actual research and data collection, so I was just sharing kind of what I hoped to achieve and like the timeline I had set up. The third phase was interviewing dance movement therapists. I ended up interviewing 3 dance movement therapists that are local in the Philadelphia area. And I started with asking a question like, what activities would you recommend for 7 to 9-year-olds? And then what activities would you recommend for 10 to 12-year-olds? And I found out that that age group is actually tends to kind of overlap with like the goals and like what you want to achieve in the therapy sessions. And that was great news for me because the classes, even though they're labeled 7 to 9-year-olds and 10 to 12-year-olds, sometimes there's 10-year-olds in the first class and 9-year-olds in the second class. So it's good to know that it was overall the same goals. And I also asked like what challenges come with it and if there's any way to like make activities easier. And so I received 4 activities that I selected to test and see how well they were enjoyed by the age group. For implementation, I started by getting the assent forms from the students so they knew they were participating in the study, and the consent forms from all the parents. Even though not all the students completed the assent and consent forms, they were still able to participate in the activities and give feedback. I just didn't record it. And typically the class kind of followed a setup for the concert dance class where we have a ballet warm-up, usually like inspired by a ballet bar. Then we do across the floor, that's usually modern or jazz-based. Lots of times we're rolling on the floor doing leaps. And then at the end we do a combination where we were building up to our performance, which is June 1st at 11 o'clock in the Mandela Lawn. If you want to see what we've been up to. And so at the end we usually did freeze dance or freeze tag dance, which was one of their favorites. But I instead added a dance movement therapy activity and then took the data from that and asked for their feedback and their ratings of it. And it all took about 10 minutes at the end of each class. So I'm currently doing the analysis and synthesis. I only had 5 classes where I was able to implement the activities. And ideally I would have done each activity 2 or 3 times, but because I was on like a shorter timeline, I ended up only doing each activity once. And beyond senior year, I came into this project hoping to create a like formal paper, like academic paper, publish my findings. And I definitely am still interested in that. Once I extend the IRB, I would love to keep this study going and keep trying new activities as well as repeating the old ones. So the first activity that was recommended was movement freeze dance with prompts. So in this activity, you instruct the dancers to move around the space until you say freeze and you find a pose. And you prompt different qualities for the movement, such as moving really slow or really quickly, moving at a low level versus a high level, and then moving sharply or fluidly. collaboratively. And you have the instructor notice what they're doing and invite others to also follow along. So for instance, someone's rolling on the floor, I'm like, oh, let's all try to roll like this person. And I also invited the dancers to find different ways of moving as well. So like one class, they really wanted to move on the floor. So I was like, okay, great. So we rolled on the floor and then we froze. And I was like, okay, let's try like jumping. Like let's see how like high up in the air we can be to kind of challenge the way that they like to move. So for their feedback, they said that it was okay, that it was good, and that they felt happy and calm. These are all answers from 7 to 12. The second activity was mirror dance. Mirroring is like a super important part of dance movement therapy, so it was no surprise to me that it was recommended by multiple therapists that we do some form of mirroring. And while you can do this just in like a partnership, because the class sizes are so small, they're typically between 4 or 6 people, including the instructor and co-teachers, that we tend to do one person moving and everyone else following. So you have each dancer has the opportunity to lead the group in around a minute of follow along movement, and I started by demonstrating. And then you use a theme to guide the movement, and you can also use scarves or props, which is what we did. So a lot of the movements tended to be very focused on like how you can move the scarf, how you can spin with it, and it kind of caused a little bit of like trouble to follow mimicking the perfect scarf pattern. And the goals are learning to dance in relationship with one another, as well as picking up movement characteristics quickly. They said that there were some challenges to this, and that they liked following along, and it was, quote, hard but easy. And one student said they felt free and it was fun to do. The third activity, this was my personal favorite, it was the counting dance. So for this one, in unison, you count to 10. And you invite movement prompts for each number, allowing the participants to select a number and movement. So for example, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you have, for example, I would have my assistant teacher, Aria, pick a number and a movement. So she'll be like, on this we're doing 3. So we go 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the goals, and so you continue until there's no longer any counting and it's just a movement phrase. And this one was pretty challenging, especially in the second class. We ended up doing up to 12 movements, so it was a lot of memorization. And the goals are working collaboratively to create a phrase, which is super important for this class, especially as we're preparing for our final performance, because the choreography tends to be really collaborative, and it's important to have value on each person's movement, even if it's not something you created, to have like the same commitment to their movement as well. And it also is important for memorizing a pattern, also important in a dance class to memorize choreography. For this activity, they were happy and excited, but also calm and relaxed while completing it, and they thought it was fun, and one person thought it was just okay. And the fourth activity, which was by far their favorite, was charades. So I wrote down various prompts that invoke different quality of movement and have the students act them out without any sounds or words. And you select a theme. So we did animals and emotions, and per one participant's request, we did do animals and emotions combined. You can also do natural places or occupations. And so the goal is to translate this like physical concept or emotional concept into movement, as well as recognizing the characteristics of things in our everyday lives. And for this one, they were very happy when they did it, and then they were sad because they didn't want to stop. And they also were relaxed and thought it was fun. And here's my part graph. So the way that I also, besides asking for their responses verbally and describing how they felt when they completed the activity, I also had them rate on a scale of 1 to 5 their enjoyment while completing the activity, as well as if they wanted to repeat it. So for example, 1 would be they never want to do the activity again, and 5 would be they want to do it every single class. So the first activity, which was the movement freeze with prompts, received a 4.5 for enjoyment and a 4 for repeat rating. The second activity, which was the mirror dance, received a 4.5 as well for enjoyment and a 4 for repeat rating. The third activity, which was the counting dance, received 4.75 for enjoyment, but only 3.75 for repeating. And activity 4, which was the charades, received both 5 for enjoyment and 5 for repeat rating. As you can see, it was their favorite. So before we try an activity all together, does anyone have any questions? And thank you for listening. Do this for?
3.
Okay, so on 3, we're going to go like this. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Who wants to pick another movement? Any movement? Oh, Becky, sorry.
7.
Alright. So all together we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Maybe from over here. Anyone? Okay. Oh,
10.
10. Okay. So we have. So we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Nice. Does anyone else have a movement? Callie?
4.
So we have 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 9. All right. Does anyone here have a movement? Nice. What numbers are we doing on 9? So we have 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. On 5, okay. We're going to do a head roll on 5. So we have 1, 2, 6, 8, 1. Okay. Yep, so that's 1. Ready? I'll count us in. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 6, 8. Awesome. So we only have a couple movements left. Does anyone have any ideas? All right. What number? 2. Okay. So what was 1? Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8. 6, 8. All right, so 2 more movements left. Oh, sorry. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8. 6. All right, we have 1 more movement left, and then we have the whole dance. Okay. What number? 2 snaps for 6. 5, 6, 7, 8.